Shalom Chaverim, I'm Stephen Ben-Nun. You're watching Israeli News Live, and we finally get Yana back in with us after such a long period of time being away. And she's doing a little bit better health-wise, still not 100%, and but we just thank God for you and for your prayers for her. And tonight, though, we're going into a very difficult subject. It's a subject you've done a lot of preparation for. I've touched on it in the past on our channel before, those that have been here for a long time. But we're going to get into it from different angles, different aspects, biblically, historically, etc. So, Yana, take it away from there.
Well, the reason we are doing it mostly is because one of our sisters that we know was attacked by fellow believers because she celebrates Christmas. She celebrates Christmas, but she loves Jesus. She's a 100% Christian and a Christ-loving person. And she was attacked pretty badly.
That was the second time that happened, though.
That's the second time, and this is very common. Some groups, Jehovah's Witnesses, Hebrew Roots, messianic circles, and even some Christians that read Wikipedias and then information online. As you know, there's a lot of things against Christmas comparing to Saturnalia and Sol Ictus, pagan holiday, and you can find a lot of information that Christians have borrowed this festival from the pagans. And I thought that myself for the longest time. I was Jehovah's Witness. I never had any birthday, any Christmas, any holiday, not even Thanksgiving, nothing. And my very first, I would say, Christmas celebration still was in 2010. Jesus came to me in August 2010, and that year in December, as you know, Brother Calvert in a church. It was a non-denominational church. I got rebaptized. And during Christmas time, he had this manger and live animals. Our children were small, and I was so excited about Christ. And we went to the church, and he had this choir. They sang songs to Jesus, worship Jesus, and there was that song, "Mary, Did You Know?" And that was a song I first time heard in my life, very first time, and it made me cry. I was very emotional about it. And I loved the worship of Christ. And I didn't see anything wrong with it. However, later, we went into the ministry. It was a Zionist ministry, pro-Israel ministry. And you were more into your Jewish roots, and I was trying to discover more of my Jewish roots from my half of the family. And we just thought this is the way to go. And we started celebrating Hanukkah. So that was my only Christmas, 2010. I call it Christmas because I spent it with Christians and Christmas songs. But then every year I just liked Christmas carols. And this is the season when you hear them. So I love them. I sang to Christ. And I just could never, after coming out of Watchtower, I could never condemn Christians for having Christmas. I never officially condemned them. However, there is this condemnation, Steve, that they are idolaters and they go after pagans and, lavish gifts and everything. Although I know that not everybody spends with lavish gifts and over drinking and all of this. They just kind of focus on Jesus. They have a family time. They might have a Christmas tree in the background. But they are attacked as idolaters. And this is where we're going to bring you in, because the scriptures from Jeremiah are often quoted against them. And what's quoted is, "Oh, you whore under every green tree," and all of that. Now, There is also an issue: is Christmas really borrowed from pagans? Is this really true? You know that a lot of information is from the Chabad Jews that is online. Okay, Chabad Jews are disseminating that Christmas is pagan, idolatrous, and
not just necessarily under the name Chabad either.
Right,
it
any
is
Jews.
people
right,
that are
rabbis.
writing, but if you did enough research, you could find out the background of who they are.
Yeah, but it is specifically Chabad Jews who are politically going after Christianity, and they are suing certain institutions, if they put up a
Yes.
tree, let's say close to their neighborhoods, and they want tree out because they're offended, and instead they want institutions to rise the menorah. So there is this official war on Christmas. The reason they hate Christmas is two reasons. They say that tree is idolatry, and they're saying that worship of Jesus Christ, of course, is idolatry, because that's
Right.
what Christians do. They sing to Jesus and all of that stuff, which they're offended by. And then, of course, when we talked about Noahide laws in the past so much, these sub-laws specifically state that Goyim cannot make their own holidays unless approved by rabbis. They can, it's prohibited and punished by decapitation.
Right.
So if Noahide laws, as they are pushing for them in United Nations and on that level there, as you had video the other day, if that what wins, Stephen, we know that Christmas will be officially outlawed, okay? And
Right.
any celebration of Christmas will be punished by decapitation. So yes, there is this war on Christmas from that side, and I just want everybody to be aware of that. But the point is, because I please, before we go into this, I would like to ask our audience, don't shut it down right now, the video.
Yeah.
Because you can't condemn us. All the noons celebrate Christmas are pagans. They're going now into pagan.
Well, let's
you know,
clarify
pagan.
that a little bit, though, too, because, you know, myself, Christmas was something I've never celebrated. You know, I didn't have a tree my whole life practically. Never had a tree of my own as an adult, as a believer. And you, of course, you were a Jehovah's Witness, so that's a different reason. For me, it was just personal. I didn't want to do that. Had nothing to do with Jeremiah, because I knew that that was not true. But I just didn't, I was not into the Christmas scene myself. You know, I liked the birth of Christ. I knew it wasn't during that time. I did believe, though, you know, that it's a nice time of year because people seem to be kinder to one another. You have people saying, God bless you. So at least you get some of the kindness there.
Maybe you leave more tips in a restaurant. And
Well, yeah, you see that a lot.
like
So
more of
there is
giving
more
spirit.
of a good spirit amongst people in
You know, the
general during
point
that
is,
time of year.
Let's get to the facts. Are Christians idolaters because they have a Christmas tree?
No.
Okay. Are they and if we cannot condemn them on the basis of idolatry, what can we condemn them about? Are Christians idolaters because they have an adopted pagan holiday? You know, well, that's the good question, because soon we're gonna bring some new information that I just heard.
Right.
I wasn't even aware of it. Why maybe December 25 is not a pagan date? Okay, why it might be even significant to Christians?
Exactly.
We'll talk about this. And is it borrowed from pagans, or is this other way around? Now, this is the information that wasn't out there, and you cannot easily find it until you search for it. You see, there is an agenda too against Christians and Christianity.
Right.
And we have to be careful. So, is anything wrong with Christians having Christmas? Personally, I don't think there is anything wrong with it. And please just stay with me till the end.
Absolutely, because there's a lot of pagan things that Christians today, even those that condemn Christmas and anybody that has anything to do with it, they're practicing pagan rituals on a regular basis, have no idea. And of course, I wouldn't condemn them on those either, but it just happens.
Right, we have
So-
I have a wedding band, my engagement.
I do have one, but I don't
Yes.
wear it very often,
Yeah.
and it's mainly because it doesn't. I lost a lot of weight, so it keeps falling off, and I put it on the middle finger like the Jewish people
Maybe I
do.
need to buy
Then
a
it
new
swells too much, yeah. So I gotta redo that. So.
Okay, well, this is the thing.
I don't know. Afterwards, people might not want their wedding bands anymore. So, you know.
Yeah, after we give them this information, they might throw it away. We'll see how many will. Or are they willing to, Steve? I'll tell you, I won't throw mine away because I think that God sees the intent of heart.
Right, because today
And-
people want to
And
say
if
that
you
I'm married,
change- if
and they
you
want
ch-
it to be seen
right,
outwardly.
If you change that meaning, you know, but and the same excuse can be applied to Christmas if it's pagan, although that's a question. Now, people who condemn Christians can't be hypocrites. Why? They practice a lot of pagan things, and they're not willing to throw them away. I right now will just give a very brief presentation about Wiccan origins of everything pertaining to weddings and how serious this is. Now let's see how many of those who do condemn Christians are willing to throw wedding bands to the garbage, or engagement diamond rings if they have them, okay? Are they willing to never attend weddings? Are they willing to never organize wedding for their daughters? Because the truth is that this definitely, without any question, has the witchcraft, Wiccan, and pagan
Roots.
origins.
Yes.
Okay, so are they willing to? And if they are not, well, let's ask, are they hypocrites by condemning Christians?
Right.
And then,
Or can they come to a place to
Yeah.
where they can say, okay, I don't do the wedding band because of idolatry. I do it because it's just my faithfulness to my husband or to my wife. And so
Right.
therefore, then coming under the same love for those that, okay, if you choose not to celebrate Christmas, and okay, if you don't want to have a tree, which is the way I've done my whole life, then you don't have to have a tree. But then just because your brother has one or your sister has one, don't throw them under the bus. If you know in their heart it's all about Christ, then...
I don't think of people who have a tree as idolaters because they don't have
Right.
it for idolatry.
And we're going to get into that. We'll get
and it
into
comes
that.
with a definition what actual idolatry is.
Yes.
And let's properly
Yes.
apply scriptures on that.
Yes.
It's not
So we get it
just,
right. Because in that case there, you're safer to have the tree than you are to have the wedding band.
Exactly.
That's no joke. That's not a
Exactly.
joke. That's
That's not a
serious.
joke.
You're safer to have that
Yes.
tree than you are to have a wedding band.
Right.
Let's
or
look.
attend the wedding.
Let's
All
take a
right,
look
so,
at this.
First of all, before we go on, I want to give credit to where I have this information from. I think that's very fair.
Red
to do
Hots.
that.
Helps you wake up.
It's author Christopher J.E. Johnson. He is our brother. There is about 100 pages of the most thorough research I have ever seen on every aspect of wedding with all the proofs, and then he goes into other things that people practice are pagan. So maybe we can find this and give them a link.
Yes,
because this,
we'll be able to give them the
I'm
link.
not able to do everything he did, but this research is from him, and I just basically want to show you, and I know it's true. He even-
Corroborating information of many authors that have also spoken about
Well,
these
let's talk
issues.
about it, but
Okay.
he even provided the numbers where they can find those books for those who kind of doubt. Okay.
Okay. So you
If you
ready?
can go back, Steve.
Okay.
It says, look at the picture. These are various pictures of pagan and so-called Christian weddings. Can you tell which one is which? Now, this one is just a Scottish person. This is their national kind of what they wear. And then, can you tell me, are these Christians or pagans? Are these Christians or pagans? Are these Christians or pagans? You can't tell the difference, okay? Why? Why can't you tell the difference? Well, let's keep going and we'll see. In a book by Don Gadu, the book called The Church in the End Time, Conflict Between Truth and Falsehood, it says, Catholicism adopted the use of rings from the pagan world. Engagement rings in a Catholic church have been given since inception, as was adopted from ancient pagan times. One type set with diamond became popular in the 15th century. The wearing of wedding rings is also an ancient pagan tradition. This pagan tradition has been legitimized in a church by the Pope, who sees the ring as having a mysterious power that binds people to oaths they take. Now, what's wrong with that, Steve? Pope says the ring has power. This has power.
And we know it doesn't
okay,
have power.
to bind the oaths that we took. We know the Bible scripture says, let your word be yes
That's
or
right.
no.
Your word is what binds you,
What
not
binds
the
you
not
is
the
word,
ring.
and a promise, not the ring. All right, there is nowhere in the Bible that two people, when they get together, are to give each other rings.
And that doesn't sound too bad as far as this one.
No,
doesn't
but
sound too
let's
bad.
keep moving, okay?
All right.
He gives power to actual object.
Okay.
Now, Abigail Kirsch in the book, The Bride and Groom's First Cookbook, says, the wedding ring also has its origin in pagan times. According to ancient Greeks, Prometheus made the first wedding band. Now Prometheus was a Nephilim, okay, out of smelted metal for strength and endurance. The unbroken circle was believed to signify the harmony of marriage. Modern-day adaptation of the many pagan rites have become big business. Photographers, musicians, jewelers, and florists have all prospered from pagan Asian customs.
Is that where, seeing as he was a Nephilim, is that where the serpent part of the ring comes in?
Yes, the Ouroboros, you know, the god of, Jews have that god, Ein
Right.
Sof. It's the Ouroboros that encircles the earth. In fact, the very first ring in the world was the snake ring, which represented Ouroboros. That's snake.
That's why I was
you know.
wondering if it was that
So-
guy that did it, that
Yeah, and
Nephilim.
wedding bands have even more specific pagan meanings. So Sylvia Brownie, in her book Secrets and Mysteries of the World, Sylvia was Catholic school teacher for 18 years, and she works today as a psychic. And she writes in her book, our world is filled with pagan symbols. Take, for example, the wedding band. It was believed that if bad luck came to a married couple, it would get trapped in a circle, the ring, and it would just stay there running in a circle for eternity. Aislinn, in book Ashling Wicca book 1, says, in most cases, watches and random jewelry should be removed before practicing magic. Wedding rings are worn during the practice of the magic as they are considered sacred and blessed. So basically what they're saying, that when Wiccans or witches practice the rituals, they remove watch, they remove every other jewelry, necklace, or whatever it might be.
But not the wedding band.
But the wedding band is considered sacred, and they don't remove it during magic rituals. Now, where do we wear wedding bands? We wear it on left hand, on the ring finger. Right here I have it. That's where you have it, right? That's where engagement ring is worn. That's by tradition. I mean, if you have it anywhere else, that's wrong. It's got to be right here, right? Now, ring finger location for the ring is based on palmistry, which is used by psychics and mediums today to do palm reading. And here's the picture, like what this line represents. And what is this line, okay? The line that goes into your ring finger. It says Apollo is the sun god, and the ring finger tradition is worship of the sun. Let's keep moving. Michelle Bond, in a book, The Urban Shaman, 8 Modern Wedding Practices which originated from pagan beliefs, says, in palmistry, the ring finger relates to matters of the heart and is ruled by the god Apollo, false god, which is demigod. Okay, let's keep moving. Dayananand Ambawadi, who is a practicing witch, in her book, All the Secrets of Palmistry, for profession and popularity, she says there are 4 mounts at the base of the fingers, and these are the 4 mounts, okay? Mount of Jupiter on the index, Mount of Saturn under the middle finger, Mount of Apollo or Sun under the ring finger, and Mount of Mercury under the little finger. So you have a different witches or psychics saying the same thing in different sources, so you know where that comes from to their wedding band here. What's interesting about this particular quote is the Mount of Saturn under the middle finger, and you know that Jews wear their wedding ring on the middle finger.
Yes.
Why? Because they worship Saturn. Okay, they worship Saturn. They worship on the wrong calendar. They do Sabbath even on the wrong calendar.
Yes.
Saturn, Saturday, you know.
Right, and we've never discussed this, guys, with
Right.
you particular, but it is true, and this is one of the things about the Dead Sea Scrolls. The Qumranite community, they believed in a 364-day year calendar.
Yes.
I've read it before for
And
myself.
they're going to hear it from Micah Heisner.
Yeah.
Different source, but you have said that before, and he knows it, which
Yes.
we're going to bring him up soon. Okay, go ahead. But anyway, let's keep moving, Steve, for the sake of time. Now, witchcraft origins of wedding bouquets. Now, that's a surprise. Little pretty flowers for the bride. Where is the problem? I had my beautiful bouquet of pure red roses that you got me, kept it dried up for a very, very long time, didn't want to part with it. I don't know where it's now, but I remember it was very special for me. But let's see the surprising origins of it. Wedding bouquets, the wedding flower arrangements were originally selected for its fertility properties, charm to bring down blessing from pagan gods. Now when we talk in Easter about eggs and bunnies for the fertility rites, wedding bouquets are at the same level, right up there with it. Okay, yet all the Christians, Messianics, Jehovah's Witnesses,
everybody
Hebrew
does
roots, they attend weddings of their daughters, organize their weddings with all the traditions. Yet I don't see on here condemnation. Isn't that hypocrisy?
Well, it's
Okay.
hypocrisy if you're condemning both.
Right.
Because,
If you-
well, in the case of the
right.
tree's not a pagan origin. It's
It might be.
the wedding
It
things.
might be pagan, but also not pagan. I mean, it depends.
Well, okay, you're right. It could be, the Christmas tree could be of a pagan origin,
Right.
but to apply it to Jeremiah 10
It's
is
wrong.
not correct.
It's not.
That's
it's
not
a
correct.
misapply. It's scriptures using scriptures
Misinterpreted or
out of
mistranslated.
context and accusing your brothers
Yeah.
wrongly. Okay, Christina Shanko in a book Carry Me Over the Threshold says bridal bouquets were also part of pagan fertility rituals. In addition, many bouquets were designed to keep evil spirits at bay. So again, I could go on and on. I mean, it's a shocking information. For the sake of time, I only picked few here and there.
Okay.
But and then he goes into other things that are pagan that would shock your mind.
I can only
I
imagine.
don't want to even talk about this. So here's the question. You condemn Christians based on Wikipedia articles or something, written online, saying that it's Saturnalia. By the way, I did research Saturnalia. And I found out that Christians today, what they do at Christmas cannot be even compared to Saturnalia. And in fact, just because I'm talking about it right now, Steve, I will talk about what Saturnalia did, okay? And you can see, does Christian do any of that? Can be really, just because my son was born December 17th, and on that day my neighbor has murdered his wife. Because my neighbor murdered his wife, am I never to celebrate his birthday, or is it a horrible day? Because somebody else used
course
that
not.
day to do
Of course
something
not.
bad?
No.
Do you know? So we have to be logical before we condemn other people and really do thorough research in what we do.
Well, an example of the illogical way of thinking was Job. Job actually, because he did not know that God was letting him to go through a test because he was proud of him and knew that he would stand for him without question. Because of his trials, he cursed his own birthday. He said, "Let it not be remembered anymore." And but yet it was because he did not know what was really going on.
How far can we go? Like, for example, Jehovah's Witnesses don't celebrate birthday. I went through my childhood.
Never
whole
celebrated a
childhood.
single birthday.
Not one time my parents told me happy birthday, and they never gave me a gift. Never. I grew up, basically, I even forgot it's my birthday because it was never brought up. Okay? So
Yeah.
never. So
I was the first one to celebrate your
you were the first
birthday.
one to throw me a party when I was 39 years old.
Scared to death. She didn't want to even be
I
there.
didn't know how to behave,
Yeah.
So, and I don't have parties. There was just one time you did it to show that I can do it, that I can say happy birthday because I was
Yes.
scared to do it. Right? So how far can we go with these things, And you know why Jehovah's Witnesses don't do it? Because John Baptist lost his
Head on his birth. On Herod's birthday.
Herod's birthday.
Yes.
So that was the reason.
Yes.
Somebody does something wrong on somebody's birthday, so your birthday will never be celebrated. What kind of logic is this? Now, how many good things have happened on that day that we don't know about?
Right.
Right? Do you understand?
Sure.
the
Sure.
fallacy? Do you understand that Jehovah's Witnesses do weddings with all its traditions? They have wedding cakes. By the way, I didn't go into wedding cakes. Majorly pagan, Steve. majorly weak on traditional wedding cakes. Okay? I just didn't go for the sake of time. I would be here for 2 hours right now.
Right.
So, but anyway, let's go back to Saturnalia. And
by the way, we're not saying don't wear rings. We're not telling
No.
you don't have a wedding.
I am not ready to part with my ring. I'm going to wear my ring. Why?
Because we don't wear it, we don't celebrate the marriage for the purpose of paganism.
Exactly, because for us it has a different meaning.
Exactly.
It has a different meaning. But those people who condemn Christians and say, I'm holier than thou because I don't celebrate Christmas. Or some leave Christmas, go to Hanukkah. They just went from one thing to the next that is even worse.
And that's one thing we did celebrate. We did celebrate Hanukkah until God opened our eyes to that.
And we will talk about Hanukkah as well. So those Christians who do condemn their brother and call them idolater and, then please throw away your ring. Please do that and then find out everything else that, here is the thorough research. And please clean up your life completely until you come to the point you won't be even in society. And go somewhere in wilderness and live there because everything you touch is pagan roots. Do you understand? We have to have some kind of logic here, Steve. So, but anyway, Saturnalia, does it resemble what Christians do? I'm not talking about some worldly people, meaning not Christians, who get drunk, who have debts for Christmas, elves on their trees, and they go crazy.
Right.
That's not Christian. And most Christians that I know, actually all that we know, don't do that. They don't do that.
Right.
Maybe they have a tree and they have a beautiful, dinner with their families. Maybe they give each other little gifts, that not dead, but little things that maybe socks that husband needs. I'm going to wrap it up and give it to him. Maybe they go to church service, listen to the choir and the beautiful songs about Jesus. They worship Jesus. They read Luke and everywhere where his birth is recorded. What's wrong with that, Stephen? I mean, can we really call these people idolaters?
There's normally only 2 times a year that people go to church. In fact, President Trump said he said I go on Christmas and I go on Easter.
Right.
All right, so hey, give the guy a break. You guys that love Trump, that's the only time he's going to go. So if you take away the Christmas for him, he ain't going to go but one time a year.
Right, at least that time.
And then if we get him going on the pagan part about Easter, then he might not even go at all. Then how you gonna?
He probably will go because of that. But anyway, Saturnalia. I want to bring few points from research. What they did during Saturnalia. Okay, the law was suspended, Steve, at that Saturnalia holiday. Law was suspended, and anybody could do what they want. They could steal, murder, or anything, and they would have no consequences. So if you hated someone and you wanted them dead, that was the time to kill them because you wouldn't go to jail. You understand? That's what this pagan Roman holiday did. Do Christians practice it?
No.
No. Okay? Now, Romans spent it with feasting. Now, there is some feasting or special meals or cakes. Usually women gain weight during holidays and they work whole year to take it off because they eat cakes and chocolate, hot chocolate with
pecan pie.
My favorite is pecan pie.
Yes.
And that's during Christmas when Cracker Barrel has it. Okay, overeating, drinking, alcohol, rivalries, really loudness, right? They did give each other gifts. But we know that Christians say that it's taken from memory of the 3 Magi's. Well, it's not 3, but Magi's. We don't know how many. Minimum 2. They might have been 4.
Right.
We don't know the detail, but they brought 3 gifts, so it's assumed that it was 3 of them. Okay, they brought gifts to Jesus. And we will go into that because December 25 is a very special date for that, and it's been proven now that it was December 25 where they brought him the gifts. Okay?
Which not meaning the birth of Jesus is on the 25th, but the Magi themselves, when the star appeared over Bethlehem, because we know he was a child, a young child, not a baby in a manger.
Yeah, he was almost 2 years old.
Right.
Right.
That's when it actually appeared.
Yeah. So, and we're going to give them sources for that because it's proven from astronomy, not to be confused with astrology. Okay?
Exactly.
Now, what did they do on Saturnalia? Sacrificing to false gods? Now listen. They gave their friends small terracotta figurines known as signillaria, okay, which referred back to all the celebrations involving human sacrifice.
Oh my gosh.
All right, that was a Roman pagan Saturnalia that happened to be exactly same time as Christians have Christmas. But again, does it mean that Christmas as they do it is that? No.
Exactly.
Okay, it doesn't
exactly.
mean
Same
that.
thing with the wedding, same thing with the ring.
Right.
It has all of its pagan origins, even from the Nephilim, as you pointed out, but it doesn't mean that you're wearing the ring because the Nephilim God gave it to the people to have.
Now, 4th century AD constructed temple of Saturn in Rome. There was a temple for Saturn, pagan, and center for Saturnalia. A young pig was sacrificed every year. They chose a mock king or leader of Saturnalia in every family. Usually it was a lower member of a house, like a slave or somebody that they chose to be a lord of misrule, and that person was supposed to dress up in crazy clothes, insult guests, chase women, which reminds me of clowns. Okay, he was supposed to be like a clown who, chases people and jokes and insults you, but he gets away with it, and he's not dressed normal. Okay, so small coins were hidden in the cakes, and whoever ate it and that whoever had that coin in it became that leader of misrule. Okay, so this is what we're talking about, Saturnalia. Does it resemble what Christians do today?
No.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But anyway.
So this was the pagan practices that were being practiced by pagans during the time of Christmas.
And worship of sun god Sol Ictus.
Right. Now, is that on the 21st or the 25th? Okay, the 25th.
But when did this happen? Stephen, in the last 3 days, that Sister Jen, she was really heartbroken because she got attacked. And, you are this and that, and you idolater under every green tree, and you. So she searched, and I don't know how many people know Michael Haisner. He's a researcher, scholar, wrote many books. And we will listen to him for about 5 minutes, but his presentation was for 1 hour. And I recommend that everybody listens to it twice. Because you listen once, you miss little points. It's very important. Mm-hmm. Because just to kind of summarize the whole thing, the pagan holiday in winter solstice, Sol Ictus, Saturnalia, were not borrowed from pagans. Christians didn't borrow it from pagans. But pagans took Christian time. December 25 was established by early Christians, and that's even told by ministry, one from Israel, one for Israel ministry.
Right,
Ariel,
right.
You know him, you know
yes.
his mother.
Yes.
You know these people. They are the only to
Ariel Hyde is who
right.
Jana is talking about. Very good, very precious man.
There are only people that Jewish believers in Jesus that I consider legitimate ministry in Israel.
Yes. Amen. I agree.
Legitimate ministry in Israel that preach Jesus Christ or Yeshua, but they have no problem with Jesus. They understand Jesus is just transliteration. They preach it to Jews, and then they actually play testimonies of several Jews, how miraculously they came to Christ.
Amen.
Okay, so they actually really, truly work for salvation of the remnant of the Jewish people.
Amen.
And they addressed Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
They addressed it. And he says as well from his research that early believers in Yeshua celebrated December 25 in connection with the Magi.
Wow.
Okay, yeah.
Amazing.
In connection, knowing, because they knew when the Magi had that star over Bethlehem.
Absolutely.
The early Christians knew.
Scientists are still able to track
happened.
these things, yes.
And because of hatred of Christians, and everything about Christ, Satan brought in Saturnalia and did it exactly same time so they can mock them.
And so people get this straight. This
Yeah.
is, because it's always been taught the other way around.
Yeah, exactly.
It's taught that the Christians have borrowed from the pagans, the Catholic Church. That's what people are told.
Right.
The Catholic Church borrowed from the pagans their traditions
later,
to make Christmas.
Later, because it was a Roman pagan holiday, so the popes later put it back and Christianized it. Okay, that's true. But originally, the December 25 is not a pagan date.
Because it wasn't the
Originally,
celebration of the birth of Christ, it was the celebration of the Magi, the wise men coming to Jesus as
Right.
as a little
and
boy, giving
yes,
him the gifts.
Exactly. And that's what early Christians celebrated. And that's what One for Israel ministry is actually writing about. That they did celebrate that.
Okay.
That December 25.
And the Catholic Church put the baby in the manger, the nativity scene, into it
He
later,
also said
but it
there's
wasn't.
But he says it wasn't a birth of Christ, but there's nothing wrong with it because Magi.
You're still taking care of two things at one time,
well,
right?
no, Magi's coming to worship Jesus Christ, the young child,
Mm-hmm.
represented what? Jesus being born in flesh.
Well, because they were looking for him from the time he was born. That is
Yes,
true. I used to
exactly.
say, one thing I used to always say, and that was, look, I would see the nativity scenes out there, you'd see the shepherds, you'd see the wise men, and I'd think to myself, they got it kind of mixed up, but I actually appreciated that, especially if you go by a church or something that has it out there, I always appreciated the fact that at least they have, Christ in their celebration of Christmas. I didn't have it, but that's what I liked about it.
What's interesting about it, and we were among, Jews, and I know that we spend more time with rabbis and, than we should have spent with Jewish believers in
Yes,
Jesus.
I really wished we
regret
would have
that.
been. Yes.
I regret that.
Yes.
I'm
We
not
didn't get
afraid,
to know the believers. I mean,
we were-
some yes, but
some
not
yes.
many.
And this was interesting that these Jewish believers, when they come to Christ, they don't condemn Christians having December 25 based on that, and some even celebrate it with them.
Yes.
And they don't condemn. But then you hear Hebrew roots, messianics, Jehovah's Witnesses, and all these other attacking, and saying, you idolaters, and
Well, that's the thing, and I got to just throw in one little thought about that, because that's what bugs me as well.
Right.
When you're Jewish and you embrace Jesus Christ,
right.
the first thing you're ready to do is to ditch all the junk.
Yeah,
You don't,
Judaism.
look, looky here. Nehemiah Gordon, he's not a Christian. And some people have wondered, is he one? Nehemiah, one day he wrote me about it, and he says, no, Steve, I'm not a Christian, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But he does really have a great appreciation for Christ as a Karaite Jew. But what did he do? He was a Pharisaic Jew, not a Nephilim, okay? I don't believe that all Pharisees are Nephilim, but I really love Nehemiah Gordon because he came out, and when he did, he was so happy to shed off all the burdens,
of the Judaism yes.
all the burdens.
I say he was. He's the one that Paul spoke about, partially blinded, so the Gentiles can
Yes,
come in.
yes.
The Karaite Jews are lovely people, and they need gospel of Christ. Of course, they're blinded to that, but they are not embracing Talmud, and they
Exactly.
actually speak against it and expose it. Which that's what.
Exactly.
But anyway. So from now on, Steve, I want to tell you and give the word to you. I talked enough. And I hope that listeners don't hate me and say that,
No.
you pagan, Yana, you just, you
Well,
just love Christmas.
I think you did very beautifully,
But-
especially in the beginning, to tell the people to wait. Stick it out.
Yes,
Listen to
stick
what's
it
going to
out,
be
please.
said.
Let's
Because we're not
talk
done
more.
yet.
Let's really
Okay?
reason about this. But Stephen, talk to us about, does Jeremiah really says that or talks about Christmas trees? Is that Christmas trees? Or?
No, it's not. Let me. I want to first, before I go to the Hebrew on this, let me just take you guys to the good old-fashioned King James Bible, and I don't say that disrespectfully either. I'm just saying that because this is the beloved book that so many have always followed. So that's where I want to go with first, because this is where people get this from. Hear ye the word which the Lord speaketh unto you, O house of Israel. Thus saith the Lord. Now notice the first thing is, it's to the house of Israel. All right? It's not to Christians. It's just to the house of Israel. House of Israel went into idolatry, and Dan, of course, he's not even mentioned, his tribes no longer mentioned in the book of Revelation. Dan got so much into idolatry. And I really kind of wonder, when Jacob prophesied about him, he said his door would be the door of a serpent.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that's really sad right there. But anyway, it says, so he says to them, Thus saith the Lord, learn not the way of the heathen. Now this is why they think it's Christians. Okay? But Christians didn't exist at the time Jeremiah said this. Right. Learn not the way of the Goim, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them. For the customs of the people are vain, for one cutteth a tree out of the forest, the work of the hands of the workman with the axe. They deck it with silver, with gold, they fasten it with nails and with hammers, and that it move not. Now, I'm sure as many of you, especially when you're older, we remember the old movies. I never saw a Christmas tree done this way, but I can remember the old movies. They cut down the tree, they bring it in, they flip it upside down, they cut it off smooth with a saw. They take two boards, cross it over, they nail it to the tree, flip the tree up, and because the houses in the old day, my grandmother's was like that, wooden floors, then you nail it down so it doesn't fall over. And then we put the tinsel on there, little silver tinsel. It's not real silver. The little bulbs and stuff like that. And then they put the star on the top, which the star is always for the Star of Bethlehem, though. That's what it was for, that hung over Bethlehem. I knew that much. Even as a child, I knew that, right? But that's even the image that it looks like in the English language. It really does. So I don't fault people for thinking that.
Right.
You know? But what happens, though, and this is not a matter of you being able to take, what do they call it? I forget what it is now. Strong's Concordance. It's not a matter of taking your Strong Concordance and just being able to do a word study, which you probably could, but you kind of have to understand the Hebrew language a little bit more than just a word study to really understand what's being said here. So I wanted to take and show that to you, and then I'm going to back it up for you so you can really understand this, because not only do they take the tree and do that, but like Yana said, the one lady with Sister Jen, she was saying to her, it's like adultery. You commit adultery under every green tree and every grove. Yes. All right, and even there, the word grove in Hebrew is not really the word grove. It's Ashtoreth. It's the sex goddess, or as in some of the Jewish Bibles or books, the books that have the Talmud, they say that was the wife of. Oh goodness, who was that the wife of? Asherah, God's wife. That's God's wife.
That's what Jews
that's what they believe. And it's not true, but that's what they believe. All right, anyway, let's take a look at this though. All right, so I put it in yellow to kind of focus where we're going to go at. Thus saith the Lord, learn not the way of the nation. Ko amar Yehovah el darek hagoim. All right, learn not. The word derech is a road, which is a pathway. Don't learn that path. Don't go on the path that the Gentiles are doing. Excuse me, I get my tongue twisted here. Not to learn what they're doing. All right, why? All right, because be not dismayed at the signs of heaven. We already know what that would mean. They're into the stars. Now that's deeper than you can realize right there. Don't be dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the nations are dismayed at them. This is not just stargazing. That's astrology. They get into these things. And why do they get into this? Who taught them these things?
It's not astronomy. What it is, they believe
astrology.
That stars direct their lives.
Right. And who taught it? You got to cheat to learn it. Now, I say cheat. In the book of Enoch is where you find it out. It's fallen angels that taught that.
Right.
All right? But in reality, it's in the book of Genesis in the Dead Sea Scrolls. So it's not, it is part of your Bible. You just didn't get that part. All right? So I just throw that in there for you. For the customs of the peoples, are vanity. All right. Now that word is really the, let's see, ki hakot ha'amim haba'el hu. Okay, that is the word vanity, because sometimes they translate the word lie, shaker, for the word vanity, and it's not the word vanity. For it is but a tree which one cutteth out of the forest. All right. The work of the hands of the workman with the axe. This is the important part right here. It's the yadeh chorosh, or charash, all right? The charash is not just any kind of workman. He is a craftsman. He is the guy that makes statues. He is the one that carves not just wood, but from stone. He is also a man that has the ability to be able to take the gold, to melt down the gold, melt down the silver. And what he's doing here when we look at this, and I could really break down all your words in here. Even oseh, right here. Oseh is this word right here, which is to make. But it's ma'oseh. Ma'oseh carries a different meaning in the way that you're making something. It's making something from something. All right, so he cuts down the eitz, the tree. The eitz is right here. All right, he cuts down ka'ato and ma'oseh. So from the tree, he's going to make something. That's the key right there. I should have highlighted that for you guys. Let me just real quick highlight that one there so you can see that. All right, because that is very important to understand. He's making something from something, and it's from the tree. He doesn't just go cut it down. He's a craftsman that's going to make something from that tree. Well, how is he going to do it? Now we understand that he takes the tree, he cuts it down, and from that tree he's going to, this craftsman, all right, is going to make something. How's he going to do it? Those craftsmen are going to deck it with silver and with gold. In other words, they melt it down after he's already crafted this tree into some kind of an image. Now he covers it with the silver and the gold, and he fastens it with nails and with hammers that it move not. Why? Because if he doesn't, it's going to fall over. All right? That's why. All right? Now, I'm going to prove this to you here in just a second. They are like pillars in a garden of cucumbers and speak not. All right? Pillar. They're like, wow, that's interesting. What are they like that for? They're like a statue. Okay? They must needs be born because they cannot go. Be not afraid of them, for they cannot do evil, neither is it in them to do good. He's showing you that they're using these as gods. Okay? A lot different than what you're thinking about. Now, let me prove some of what I'm telling you there. Remember the word right here, charash, right here. Okay, charash. Let's look at this here. We're going to go to 2 Kings. All right? And make sure, let's see. All right, now this one here, this is a different one. This is not the one I want to get to yet. I'll come back to that in just a moment there. Let's go to Exodus instead. We're in Exodus 28, verse 11. With the work of an engraver in stone. Notice how they changed it. They still take, you had it as in Jeremiah 10, they translated it a workman. That just sounds like a guy with an axe on his back running out to the woods, but he's not a workman, as I said. He's a craftsman, right? So let's go back to Exodus 28. We find now that the work of an engraver in stone, like the engravings of a signet, shalt thou engrave the 2 stones. What is he? And again, oh wow, and I forgot to highlight that one as well, right there. Ma'osah, all right? That ma'osah is again there. Not just any kind of doing, but he is a special kind of person with a talent to engrave, and he takes from the stone and he creates an image. There's one witness to that very word right there, charash, so you understand what we're talking about, right? Now, of course, give credit to the Talmudic rabbis to put the wrong kind of vowel there to try to say, oh no, he's a different kind of engraver. Exact same words, but their stupid Talmudic vowels cause all kinds of stupidity there. All right, but let's go to another scripture right here. Now we're in the book of, let me go up and see because I forget which one it is. Okay, 1 Samuel chapter 13, verse 19. And here we get the same thing again. Now there was no smith found through all the land of Israel, for the Philistines said, lest the Hebrews make them swords or spears. All right? Working with metals. Again, the craftsman, Charash. All right? There he is. Again, that's two witnesses that they literally make things from something. All right? Again, now we are in, and again, I don't even know what book I'm in. Normally it shows it right there when you're doing it. So I'll run up real quick. Isaiah chapter 40. And I'm using specifically different books, but you have several of them in the book of Exodus and things like that. Again, the image perchance, which the craftsman hath melted, and the goldsmith spread over with gold, the silversmith casting silver chains. All right? And this here, to whom then will you liken God, or what likeness will you compare unto him? All right, the image of the perchance. All right, so he goes into like they're making this statue of some sort there, right? And again, Charash. There's three witnesses right there. I could go on and on and on and on with them. Again, craftsmen made it, and so no God, yea, the calf of Samaria should be broken in shivers. Now you actually have them making a false god. And again, it's the Charash. So I think the point is starting to become very clear to you. The person in Jeremiah 10 wasn't running around starting Christmas trees, had nothing to do with that. They were making false gods. Now, the other issue is those under the green groves and things like that. All right, and they set them up pillars and asherim. If you saw this in the King James Version there, the asherim is groves upon every hill and under every leafy tree. Unto the Lord their God they built them high places in all their cities, from the tower of the watchman to the fortified city. You're going to see this frequently, and a lot of times, Johnny, you'll see it where they say, and they committed adultery, or they lay under every tree doing this, every green leafy tree. And they set them up pillars and asherim, and they... In this Bible, they translate the word correctly, or Ashtaroth. Mm-hmm. Same word, same exact word, upon every high hill and under every leafy tree. And there they offered.
Basically Diana.
Exactly.
Which is the
exactly.
Of fertility.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's exactly what they did that for. And there they offered in all their high places, as did the nations. Mm-hmm. Okay?
Right.
So now you understand now why that guy took the tree down and he carved it?
Yeah, and they had the literal sexual orgies.
Yes,
Christians
exactly.
don't do that.
Whom the Lord carried away. All right, so the nations were doing this, and they were doing it. This was before the time of Paul when they were using Asherim. By the time Paul got around, it was Ashtaroth. Same idea,
Diana.
There was Diana, is exactly what it was. And then I think, let me just see if I have another one on that issue there. He did that which was right in the eyes of the Lord, according, this is in, okay, 2 Kings chapter 18. Okay, this is one other one. This one's very important as well. This is where Israel began to worship the serpent on the pole. Mm-hmm. Okay, an emblem, like you were showing earlier, an emblem that was meant to be good, mm-hmm. but ends up coming corrupt. Right. All right, or vice versa, the other way around. He did that which was right. That was the king, Hezekiah, who became the king, and he actually took that brass serpent pole and he destroyed it. It says he removed the high places and broke the pillars, cut down the Asherah, mm-hmm. or the groves, and he broke in pieces the brazen serpent that Moses had made. For unto those days the children of Israel did offer to it, and it was called Nehushtan.
You know what's funny? Or sad, actually, not funny, that till this day, Talmudic rabbis worship that serpent.
Well, that's what I was going to bring up as well.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you're doing things from a scholastic point of view, you can't do like these guys that made the video about Jesus, his name being the mark of the beast. All right? But I'll show you something, because even though the word right here, where they have it transliterated, Nehushtan, all right? That's the way they transliterate it. This word, without the nun sofit on the end, appears several other times in the Hebrew language, Nehushat, okay, or Nehushtat, All right, but Nehushtan does not appear that way. Now it does have the word in the beginning, Nachash, serpent, like it is here. And I believe that's partly the reason why they called it this. But the question remains, all right, it's, again, it would sound like Satan right there, but it's not the word Satan because Satan is spelled with a tet, not with a tav. But the odd thing is, I have actually found where scholars do believe that they considered that to be the devil serpent. All right? And I don't know why they come to that conclusion. I tried to research it out. You know, I can't say, oh, by the way, it's serpent, Satan, serpent, because it doesn't say Satan, serpent, but it does say it is the word serpent, but they use a tav instead of a tet. So I don't know. I'm still researching on that because I'm kind of curious as to why. But like you said, though, they'd gotten so much in. That's one of the things I've discovered on the historic side of it. Like you said, the Jewish people were worshiping, and that's where they come up with the idea of Satan, because they were worshiping Satan through this staff, the serpent on the pole, and because they knew that the serpent was the devil.
Today that it's the sacred serpent, their Messiah.
Exactly.
That's what maybe that's idolatry because they worship that thing.
Yes.
You know, which is Satan.
Yes. And they believe in that circular ring, the serpent swallowing his tail, the Ouroboros.
I have brought it out on our conferences. I mean, that was really something that people should watch on Patreon.
Yes. Yes.
But anyway, so here we go, Steve.
Okay.
What is a definition of idolatry? Basically, what we learned is that Jeremiah cannot be applied to Christians having a tree.
Has nothing to do with it whatsoever.
Because what it talks about, that you make actual idol and you bow down to worship it instead of the Lord.
Yes.
And you give it powers it doesn't have. Okay, and you ask it of things and pray to it and all that and give it thanks and praise it. And that's the definition of idolatry.
Right.
Not having a tree.
And the one thing, let me just clarify too, that because when the lady was accusing Jen of, you know, well, they were having the adultery under every green tree.
Not only Jen, but Christians in general.
What that was because they did set it up, and that's why they translate that as grove. The idols, and even in one place here, I think it says it right here, they were set up like palm trees, like cucumbers, a garden of cucumbers. All right, and the whole purpose was this is where the Gentiles were involved in mingling their seed, the Hittites, Perizzites, and Jebusites. They were making these groves, making these statues, worshiping these fallen angels, and through whatever their necromancing and things that they were doing, that's why God got angry with Israel. He said, you played the harlot under every green leafy tree, because the children of Israel were getting involved in that, and they were mixing their bloodline. We learned this in Psalm 106. David shows that they actually did that, and they mingled their seed, just like the Levites did during the time of the Babylonian exile. And that's what sent the house of Israel into exile. Nothing to do with Christmas trees whatsoever. You can't even remotely come up with the idea of Christmas tree with that.
Okay, so since we already talked about that, let's go to some of the articles we have prepared.
Yes, absolutely.
And almost,
let me see where I got it at here.
Hanukkah as well. This is one for Israel ministry. This is what I recommend for people to read. His view on this. He's a Jewish believer in Jesus, winning Jewish people to Christ.
Okay.
And I'm not going to read the whole article, but he's mentioning down the research of Dr. Larson, which we're going to talk about soon, and
okay.
give people a link. And he's also talking about the fact that it wasn't that Christians borrowed it from pagans, but the vice versa.
Okay.
The pagans
borrowed
from Christians.
Right.
And it's not like it's a command of the Lord, but it was, Christians just made it, according to him, it was just something Christians remembered on December 25, so it is not a pagan date. Okay? So, keep moving, Stephen.
Okay.
We'll leave them links so they can see. Now, this is a link for the documentary,
The Star of Bethlehem. This is the one that you told people to watch twice.
Well, I have to give credit here to Sister Jennifer, because
she's the one that actually shared this with us. Yes, I remember that.
She sent it to me. I had no knowledge of this research of Dr. Larson. Now, to introduce Dr. Larson, he is a Christian man, very, very lovely Christian man, who is a lawyer by profession. And his whole life he dedicated to the research of Star of Bethlehem to see if it's true.
Okay.
You know, it's mentioned in a scripture.
Right.
What was it? Is it true? What the science proves, and so on. And he gives his, case and research, and it is an amazing, amazing research, highly mathematically accurate. Of course, don't confuse it with astrology, please. This is a science, okay, that he dealt with, and it is proven that it was indeed on our calendar, Gregorian. December 25 is exactly when the star was above Bethlehem to show the wise men where Christ child was.
Right.
And what did they come to do, Stephen?
That's right, to give gifts and to worship Him.
Wow, yes, the scripture says we have come to worship Him.
Can we play just a couple of minutes of this for them?
Well, you can, but I don't know at which point. But yeah,
it looks like it's at a very interesting point. I was just reading what's on his screen. Let's just see.
But Philo made it through, and Philo does discuss Magi. And he describes a particular school of Magi, he calls it the Eastern School. And these Magi he praises. He says these guys understand the natural order, and they're able to explain the natural order to others. And they were, according to Philo, probably what we might call something like proto-scientists. They were the scientists of their day. At least this fancy Eastern school of Magi was of that character. Now, we don't know that these Magi in Scripture are from that Eastern school, but don't you think it's interesting that Matthew wants us to know they came from the East? I think he's telling us these Magi were from the good school. Impressive Magi. I have a theory about this Eastern school of Magi that perhaps they were descended from Daniel's day. Daniel never went home. He stayed there until he died. And I'm sure was training people to come up behind him. That may well be the Eastern school that gets described in Philo.
Wow, that's so interesting. You know, I've actually heard that before. I've actually heard other scholars say that the Magi had learned about the Star of Bethlehem from Daniel, and that was something that I've heard over the years.
They followed the prophecies, and they knew that Messiah was born, and they came to look for him and worship him and bring them gifts, very meaningful gifts, as we know. What a beautiful part of Scripture, you know. And this is the time to really, and that was a December 25, Stephen. That is amazing. I mean, isn't that just a
yes, it is.
Beautiful thing to remember?
And I know you've already listened to this. I haven't had a chance to listen to this yet, but I am very, very interested in listening now.
This is an amazing documentary, and he proves it. I mean, he's a Christian man. He's not just some kind of a. He really, you know, he's a lawyer. He also knows how to research things, and he has truly made his case, and a lot of other scholars agree with him. And it's just, I think it warms my heart. It was December 25 when the wise men came and they saw the child with its mother.
Yes.
And why is that? That's why Christians actually talk about his birth, because he was still a child, of course, and they came because he was born.
Isn't it interesting? Isn't it interesting though too? He comes at that. They come at that time on December 25th, and right now there is such a movement
to destroy it.
Here's what's interesting. Not only is it a movement to destroy the celebrations that Christians do today, this date, but they're also destroying Christ again.
Yes.
You know, now granted, all right, I understand that, okay, the letter J is a big argument made now. J didn't come to the 15th century. Well, I hate to tell you, but 22 letters in the Hebrew alphabet were not in the time of Moses either.
You already explained it.
We had Paleo, right? But nonetheless, what I just wanted to say here, though, is that it was the Hasmoneans. Herod was a Hasmonean.
Yes.
All right.
We'll talk about Hanukkah.
Part of the Pharisees. This is where the Pharisees come from. All right. And so the Pharisees today are trying to destroy everything that's about Christ, anything remotely related to Him. And it just so happens that that's what went on then, that's what's going on today. I thought it was kind of an interesting
Well, that's
thought.
just a conjecture.
Yes.
But when I went deeply and really thought about it, and believe me, Steve, I mean, we were discussing for weeks whether we should do this program. Because you know
Yes.
how people are, and then they start just pointing at you and saying, oh, you pagans, and you went totally off the
Well, it becomes needful, though, and that's what we
Right,
weighed
and
out. It's
so-
needful for the sake of the people
for
that
the
are just
truth,
being
for the
beat up.
reality.
Yes.
But that's just a conjecture.
Right.
Because of what happened on that date, and early Christians knowing of this and celebrating what we call today Christmas. Maybe that's why Satan took Saturnalia and all these horrific things and put it in that date, you know, exactly that time, so he can mock Christians and destroy it. So in the future, it will be thought that it was Christians who adopted.
Exactly.
You
the
know,
pagan sides,
because
yes.
I'm not saying that there is no pagan elements to Christmas, especially by the world, like
Right,
elves,
there is, there
Santa,
is.
this, you
And
know,
I'm totally against
lavishness.
those things.
And but the Christians don't do that. And if there's some do, I mean, do they go to hell for it? They can repent or whatever. But what I'm saying, all these condemnations, Stephen, it's gone way too far, and we are accusing our brethren. And maybe we are sinning, or the accusers are sinning, because who accuses the brethren is the Satan.
Right, right.
And maybe it is truly the war on Christ and everything that's Christian. And you know how Yitzhak Shapira says that Christianity soon won't exist. The church as entity will not exist, and they want to wipe out and annihilate anything that's Christian.
Yes.
So I worry that we are, and today's people who are like that, legalistic and like that they're actually playing into the cards of the enemy. You understand? Instead of let's keep Christmas simple and about Jesus, let's remember true things like this, you know, and sing to him and have a nice family time. But don't condemn your brothers and sisters as idolaters
Right, right.
with the wrong context of scriptures. But anyway, let's keep moving. We're gonna give them a link. Please watch this documentary. You know, it's time now, Christmas season.
Christmas quick facts.
Okay, keep moving.
This is Jews for Jesus. We'll just...
Okay,
you know,
another thing, Jews for Jesus. Okay, there is a big group of Jews for Jesus. They also do not condemn Christians. They do say that it's pagan, but that's because they don't have that knowledge that we just showed.
Okay.
You know, but they still say, well, they changed it to something beautiful and so on. And so what my point is that it's only Talmudic Jews and very legalistic believers
Right.
that condemn Christian people for worshiping Jesus and having Christmas. But Jewish people, when they come to Christ and they shed off the legalism and Pharisaism and Judaism,
Right.
they actually don't condemn, they understand, and they actually participate in worship of Christ during that season. So that's what's interesting. You know what I
Right,
mean?
right.
So anyway, we're going to leave them links of that.
Okay.
And it's
Now
time
we're going
to
to get
go
into
to
the Hanukkah. Right.
Let's go to Hanukkah. Now, before we start talking about Hanukkah, I want to say there is a lot of messianic people who say, well, for me, Hanukkah means Jesus' time of conception. Now, look at that. Think about this. I don't see nobody attacks Hanukkah. All of the people that attack Christmas do not attack Hanukkah. They think, and a lot of Christians leave Christmas, they go to Hanukkah, and they think, well, now we do the good thing. We were one of these people.
Yes.
It's not like we left Christmas because we didn't have it.
We actually have a video lighting the Hanukkah
Yes,
candles.
but we have video of lighting Hanukkah, and we were doing Hanukkah. We thought, hey, this, Jews know their holidays and commandments, and this is something good.
And by the way, the
Right.
Hanukkah in the Bible, there's 2 trees on either side of the golden menorah.
But anyway, and then we will talk.
Just kidding.
I'll talk a little bit about Mike Heisner, because he brought in beautiful, beautiful research that just blew my mind. And then, of course, he brought in balance, and then he brought in common sense and logic, which I like. But anyway, we'll talk about him. But let's go back to Hanukkah. And there is a lot of messianics that say, well, we believe that Jesus was conceived during Hanukkah.
Mhm.
And to us, it just lighting the candles of Hanukkah is only, it just means we do it for Christ. He's the light of the world, so we light the candles. Well, then, what is the difference? You change something pagan, which I will prove it's pagan,
Right.
into something that means for you, for your heart, that you do it for Christ. Why do you condemn Christians? If Christianity is pagan, Christmas is pagan, and they changed it for them to mean Christ, they do the same thing. Do you understand?
Exactly.
So don't condemn Christians
Right.
because you're doing the same thing as messianics. Because you tell me, well, we don't really mention the pagan parts of Hanukkah. To us, it's Christ. And if you celebrate Hanukkah because it was his conception, and what do we believe? That life begins in conception? What's
Mhm.
wrong with celebrating his birth then? Same thing,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So do you understand? Let's
Yes.
logically talk about, don't condemn each other. And if you do celebrate Hanukkah and you changed it, it means for you Christ, then do it. I'm not condemning you.
Right.
You
And that's
feel my
and the
brother?
reason why I can
Do you understand?
I take it like you said too. It's just the same thing with the Christians that want to that are looking at the Christmas as the wise men came. I
and
look at
birth of Christ,
right.
and time
I
with
look at
family,
Hanukkah.
and giving and charity.
Right,
you
because
know.
see, in Hanukkah, really Hanukkah has just became the same commercialized things that Christmas
Right.
did. I mean, the Jews, they do 9 days of gifts. You buy a gift every single day. They totally turned it into another Christmas festival. Same thing as far as that type of,
Yes.
of the part
and
of
they
it.
put all kinds of ornaments and everywhere.
Exactly. It's
They have
no
a table,
different.
They have feasting.
Sure,
they have,
sure.
Gifts, 8 gifts. Every
Yeah.
child gets 8. Oh my goodness, this.
Yeah.
Some
So when
Christians-
when the Christians sing the song on the first day of Christmas, my true love gave to me. Well, Hanukkah actually follows that almost to the T,
Yeah.
except they got 9 days of it. And the
Right.
thing is, the menorah is only a 7-candle menorah. It's not 9.
No, it's Hanukkah. They just call it menorah, and Kara Jews don't like it. But anyway,
Yeah.
what I want to say is, again, and I don't want to repeat myself, and I do, I'm sorry, it's just something what I do. I'm so bad
Steve
about this.
interrupts and I throw her off
But,
track.
yeah. But what I want to tell is, again, if you are Messianic and you say, okay, I have a Hanukkah, to me it doesn't mean all these pagan stuff that I'm going to talk about soon. To us, it's conception of Christ during that time, and it's the fall feast, that's where it comes, and to us lighting candles represents Christ because he's light of the world. Well, then you changed meaning of Hanukkah totally. Meaning
Right.
is different, okay? But you changed it for Christ. Why do you condemn Christians? They change something you think it's pagan to Christ.
Mm-hmm.
You understand me?
Yes, I do.
Let's
I
not
do.
be hypocrites here.
Right.
So, okay, but anyway, what is Hanukkah? Why Jews even celebrate it, and what really happened? We know that stories from the Maccabees 1 and 2, and we also know that it's a massacre. It was a horrible massacre. It's the Maccabees, which are Hashmoneans.
Right.
Okay? And
my
we know who Hashmoneans are and where. But everybody puts it in this beautiful light, how they fought for their traditions and their Torah, how they regained temple back, and the Seleucid king, which was a Syrian, Epiphanes, he was very cruel, and that's true. He
Right.
was killing Jewish mothers when they circumcised their sons. He was murderer, okay? Persecuted Jewish people. He outlawed Torah altogether. He brought Zeus, which, oh my goodness.
He did.
brought
Let me
Zeus
clarify
into the
one
temple.
thing. Dead Sea
Okay.
Scrolls said that he actually took and ripped the babies from the wombs of
Yes.
the mother
Right.
and killed them.
Right. Now, let me say something here, because some people are not aware of it. I have done research on Hanukkah so deep, and it sounds little victim Jews, which they were. That's unforgivable what he did to them.
Yes.
Do you understand?
Yes.
It's one evil person.
Mm-hmm.
However, who were Maccabees? and I will say it's from Jewish sources. Haaretz writes about it, and a lot of Jewish scholars, and I'll leave links, write about it. And they are saying, was it really true that Maccabees fought against the Seleucid king? They did. However, they actually fought, the major fight was against their own Hellenized Jews. Meaning that there were a lot of Jews at that time who were kind of assimilating into Greek culture, and they didn't want circumcision. They didn't want Judaism. They were what we call today seculars. You understand?
Right.
Well, what did Maccabees do? Do you think they were saints? No. They were killing brutally their own if they were Hellenized, if they assimilated to Greek culture. They were killing their own Jewish people.
Just like they did in the Holocaust.
So what we are saying right now, and that let's look at it. Well, what I'm saying is one evil against the other evil.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Karaites don't celebrate Hanukkah. Why? Because they say it's not a commandment of the Lord. It's number one thing. It's not found in the Tanakh.
Right.
It was the Maccabees, the Hashmoneans, which were false priests. Okay? Yeah, maybe they did get their temple back, and they did. But did they also do things that Lord doesn't like? Did they
Sure, they usurped the priesthood and also the king.
Now, who comes out of them? Herod. What did
Yes.
Herod do? Kill Christ. Persecuted
And
persecuted
killed,
his
no, he killed
seed.
all the children.
All the children from 2 years down. That's Maccabees.
Yes.
Okay, so they are no good. So we are talking one evil and second evil against each other. You know how demons
Yes.
go against each other. That's the case of Hanukkah.
And I believe they are part of the Nephilim race I think they are the children, just a conjecture, of the priest from the Babylonian
Anyway,
Empire.
can you scroll down? Let's see what is this. Here we go. Go up. I'm not sure now what I sent you. It's the Haras Hanukkah. Yeah, Hanukkah, or why we celebrate civil war. Unity is how we defeat the Hellenistic separatism within us and become modern-day Maccabees, warriors of the light. It has today Hanukkah. You know how IDF celebrates Hanukkah, and today what it represents is nationalism and the fact that they can kill all the neighbors because temple is theirs. So their religion,
They're wanting,
Jewishness,
but
the
you know,
Jewish
Yana,
state.
as you know, the Orthodox community is wanting to force the secular community to go underneath
The rabbis.
Talmudic law.
In fact, the role of the Chabad, you know how they disseminate Noahide laws, and we talked about it a lot, and how they talk about Gentile people. Their major and number one role is to bring all the secular Jews, which are like the
Hellenized Jews, yes.
okay, underneath of the Judaic religion, Talmud and rabbis.
Yes.
So maybe they're going to be killing their own again.
I think
if
it's
they
coming.
refuse. In fact, if a Jewish person, like let's say you, I'm half only, but you, or any Jew like this Ariel from Israel, Jewish people who come to believe Jesus, they're not considered Jews, they're persecuted, and according to Talmud, they have to die.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so am I to really celebrate Hashmoneans?
No.
So let's go back to, can you go back to my PowerPoint, because I wrote a little bit about Hanukkah. If you go here at number 13, First Maccabees 2:44-46, it comes from Maccabees, okay? And this is a quote from the following website. It says, struck down sinners. Okay, here it is. Struck down sinners in their anger and lawless men in their wrath, and forcibly circumcised all the uncircumcised boys they found within the borders of Israel. That means that if Hellenized Jews said, look, I don't want to circumcise my children, they did it by force. That's exactly what they're going to do now when the Jewish state and the religious state over Israel.
Right.
Okay, so they did this. There is a Maccabean spirit today. All right? So who were the sinners and the lowest men? It turns out they were the people we call the Hellenized Jews, the Jews whose idea of Judaism went beyond biblical fundamentalism, who tried to create a synthesis between insights of Judaism and those of the Greek culture or Hellenism that was sweeping the world in those days. The Maccabees hated Jews like that. Wherever they could, they eliminated them and their ideas. So, who commanded Hanukkah celebrations? It's recorded in Maccabees 4:50. Then they burned the incense on the altar and lighted the lamps on the lampstand, and this illuminated the temple. It was Maccabees that decreed that Hanukkah should be observed every year for 8 days. Lord did not command this. It was only them, Maccabeans.
Right.
Oil miracle is not recorded anywhere in Tanakh, nor Apocrypha, not Maccabees. Only in the Talmud. It's a rabbinic invention. This miracle has never happened. So they are just like not Christians, but Gentiles during Christmas. Let's say they say Santa story to their children and they lie. Guess what Jews do during Hanukkah? They lie to the world and their children that there was oil miracle for 8 days. Never happened. Rabbinic invention. A lie. Now, second book of Maccabees speaks of sin offering for the dead. All right? So this is why Catholics kept it in their canon, because they have offerings for the dead. And they wanted to justify it by the book of Maccabees.
Wow.
So prayers that Jews recite during Hanukkah, that I'm just doing educational thing here. So first night they recite all 3 prayers. The rest of 7 days they recite only subsequent 2 prayers. Prayers are said before and after lighting of candles. You know, Steve, we were in Israel. We said those prayers. Yeah. We didn't know what we're doing. Okay, we thought we are so holier than thou. And then we go. Prayer for lighting of candle. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu ba mitzvotav vetzivanu lehadlik ner Hanukkah. In translation, blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who has sanctified us with his commandments and commanded us to light the Hanukkah candle. Prayer for miracle of Hanukkah. And we
have no commandment of God for this.
Yeah, prayer for miracle of Hanukkah. Again, it just changes the ending. Is ner she yam tov. Commanded us to light the holiday candles.
Right.
Now, question is, which God commanded it? True God didn't. Okay? True God didn't.
Right.
So who is idolater? Because this is a prayer. Prayer is form of worship.
That's right.
So they're praying. They're praying to some God and thanking him for something he commanded to them, but the true God didn't. So who is the idolater? Because when Christians have Christmas, they pray to Jesus. But these people pray to some God. Probably serpent God. Do you understand me?
Oh, yes.
So let's look at these facts. Hanukkah has political motives in Israel. Hanukkah is celebration of Israel's military strengths today. Religious freedom, which is so ironic because
it wasn't about religious freedom.
Because they were forcing Hellenized Jews to go under Judaism. So that's just the opposite of what happened to Hellenized Jews. Jewish alternative to Christmas. They even borrow gift giving and decorations. Okay, there is nothing that they can justify gift giving.
Right.
Or we can. How? From the Magi's.
Yes.
Okay, we can say, okay, Jesus got 3 gifts. In honor of that, we will exchange little gifts.
That's right.
Till 3, don't go more.
And we'll all get the same thing, gold, myrrh, and...
I know. I'm just talking. Many Messianic and Hebrew roots ex-Christians, and I call them ex-Christians because lately, Steve, you know what we're being through here last week. They attacked the name of Jesus.
Yes.
Turn to Hanukkah instead of Christmas, thinking they're now in line with Scripture and doing God's will. Some know truth but claim they changed to Hanukkah to celebrate Christ, which I already addressed. If that's what you did, fine, but then don't condemn Christians who apparently, did the same thing. But then another thing I want to address is, did Jesus celebrate Hanukkah?
No.
it says in John 10:22-24
Okay.
that during the time of dedication he was in a temple. Now, out of that one sentence, everybody's saying he celebrated Hanukkah, Steve. Now, wasn't Jesus among Pharisees during, like all the time? Maybe he went there to preach and to, preach the good news of kingdom and to see who he can talk to or to heal someone. Just because he was there during certain. Would Jesus celebrate commandment that wasn't commanded by God? That's number one. Would he celebrate massacre of Hashmoneans, false priests? Number two. Would he do that? I don't see him doing that. And out of that one sentence, I don't know how the doctrine of Jesus celebrating Hanukkah came about. I don't understand it. Because as far as I know, he didn't. Apostles didn't. Early Christians didn't. So, So what's your opinion? Did he or didn't?
I don't believe he did.
Okay. I don't think he did.
If he did, we would have a
possible.
mention of it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know.
And apostles would. And did he really, really celebrate Hashmoneans? And, just because they wanted circumcision, didn't he come and, because they got temple and wanted circumcision back, when Jesus came, he put temple under judgment, and circumcision is no longer needed, only circumcision of the heart. So would Jesus celebrate Hanukkah? You see what I mean?
Yes.
So let's just be really logical about this.
Right.
And but anyway, this is my view on it. I am not condemning those who don't. There are people who say God revealed to their hearts that they shouldn't celebrate Christmas. If that's what you believe,
Then okay, no
then
problem.
okay. You're still my brother, sister.
Right.
But please don't condemn others based on falsehood, okay?
Right.
Because there are those who want to have that time.
Mm-hmm.
And so let's just stop condemning each other.
We've got to
And
learn to
it's
stand
also-
closer together because the times are
Right.
coming that are not
And it's
good.
also part of Christian liberty. We have something called Christian liberty. And I wanted you
Yeah.
to mention that Bible verse when Paul says that one person as teens one day higher than, they say that he meant only feast days. What do you think?
Well, let's just read it. This is actually found in Romans 14. Who art thou that judgest another man's servant? To his own master he standeth or falleth. It can't be necessarily about the feast because it's speaking about his servant. Yea, shall he be upholding up, is God able to make him stand? One man esteemeth one day above another, another esteemeth every day alike. Let every man be fully persuaded in his own mind. He that regardeth the day regardeth it unto the Lord. He that regardeth not the day to the Lord, he doth not regard it. He that eateth, eateth to the Lord, for he giveth God thanks. And he that eateth not to the Lord, eateth not, and giveth God thanks.
Okay, so for none of us lives to himself, and no man dies to himself. For whether
Right.
we live unto the Lord, and whether we die unto the Lord, whether we live therefore or die, we are the Lord's. So
And the dying has nothing to do with
I
any of the
think that we
feast
should-
either.
we should take it as a principle.
I think it applies
Lord.
better as a principle. In other
Right,
words, if
exactly.
you're doing it for the Lord,
Who is to
one
judge?
person doesn't eat. That's dealing with fasting or not fasting.
Right.
Because think about it. We know what this is about right here because when John's disciples came to Jesus, he said, John's disciples fast off, but your disciples don't. All right? They were also finding fault with one another. And Jesus said, how can they fast when the bridegroom's with them? But when the bridegroom is not with them, then they will fast. All right? So it's the same thing today. He that eateth, unto the Lord, but for he giveth God thanks. You know, so even if he's eating and he's not fasting, don't condemn him because he eats and doesn't fast.
So condemning perfectly good Christian people who are ready to lose their heads tomorrow for Christ because they have Christmas, it's just a very wrong attitude, and I think it's very sad.
Especially knowing
it's
some of the
very
things
sad.
we're learning now. And,
Right.
you know, maybe in time past where people honestly didn't know.
I understand.
You know.
But have open heart. And you know, Steve, you and I, we are not afraid to admit if we make mistakes. We have
Yes.
done it and we apologized and we came and fixed it.
Yes.
So I ask those who listen to this broadcast and who do their own research with Mike Hastener, which I want to bring him to, and then we can end. It will be maybe 10 more minutes, I promise. I know it's long, but maybe it was needed. But if you think you were ever wrong, oh no, I need to show this. Oh, I forgot.
Okay.
Oh,
We'll go
I
to
got
it in just a second. I was just trying to find Mike is what I was looking for.
Yeah, but that is important. That is important, that one there, because it's
Okay.
a rabbi talking about Hanukkah, and he admits it has pagan origins, which I had no idea. So I want to listen to this rabbi. Please listen, because he's actually saying which pagan holidays were changed by rabbis and adopted as Hanukkah. You understand? And then he names the pagan holidays, and they did it because they were afraid that Jews will go those ways, so they quickly got them on Hanukkah.
Right, right. Let's listen to it real quick then.
Yeah.
It's only 1 minute and 47 seconds, so you can bear with it.
Yes.
Banu choshech legaresh. We have come here to chase away
They
the
can't
darkness.
hear. Can you play
All the
louder
children
and
in
do it
Israel
again?
and God
They can hear
in
it.
the
Just
gardens
stay
sing this song
leaning
every
this
year
way.
at this time of Hanukkah. Why do we have to chase away the darkness? What is so fearful about darkness? It turns out that darkness is very scary. And what happens is that if you look at the northern hemisphere, if you look at the holidays between the time of September or Tishrei and the time of February or March, the time of Adar, there are the most holidays of any other period of time in the calendar, in the Jewish calendar and the non-Jewish calendar. And what it turns out is most of them have to do with lighting lights in order to take away the darkness, to give us more control of the darkness, and to deal with that fear that we have of being in the dark. It turns out at the same time that the rabbis of the time of the Mishnah and Gemara were very much aware of the fact that there were these two other pagan holidays, one called Sitronona and one called Kalanda. And they both lasted 8 days, and they were on either side of what we call the equinox, when the day and the night are equal length. And they saw that the Jews were being tempted to celebrate those holidays. So what the rabbis decided to do was adapt those two holidays, the two 8-day holidays celebrated by pagans, and make it into a holiday which we could call our own. And we call that holiday Hanukkah, which, by coincidence or not, has 8 days. So as we think about lighting our candles, we can think about taking control of the darkness and understand that at the same time we have these very other roots that come from us. Chag Hanukkah Sameach.
Okay, so let's just give you a little commentary here. Again, if someone persists that Christmas is indeed
Banu choshech
pagan,
legaresh. We have come here.
what he said that there were two pagan holidays that rabbis adopted and changed to Hanukkah. Both pagan holidays were 8 days. I mean, he admits it out of his own mouth.
Yes,
You
yes.
see what I mean? So I just want people to see that. And then let's go to Mike Heisner. I want to talk a little bit, or Heisner, I'm not
Is
sure.
this where Mike's at?
No, I sent you
This
it's
one
a
here.
Naked Bible.
And I've already got it at the
Now
right
listen,
spot.
This is 1 hour 33 minutes. What I recommend that everybody listens to it 2 times, slows down, make notes, go back and restudy or research it again, so that way you know he's speaking truth. But it's probably the most level-headed, balanced research I have ever heard. And I really like it. I appreciate what Mike has done, this deep research on the whole thing. And I think, Steve, that because of time, I will let people listen to it. We will only listen maybe 5 minutes.
Okay.
And then I want to tell you before we do that later in the video, Mike is going into the fact if having trees idolatry. He's dealing what is the definition of idolatry.
Okay.
You know, it's idolatry. He's also talking about the fact there were a lot of pagan symbols in the Old Testament Like when God says you're not going to make any image for yourself, next thing he does, he put cherubim on the Ark of Covenant. And we have the images of cherubim.
Right, right.
Okay? And then he also says that do not erect any stones as the heathens do, or pagans, or goyim, okay? Because they erect stones, and they erected them for worshipping of their gods. Well, Moses goes and erects stones, but what was the difference? What was the difference?
Well, the one, Moses does it for the worship of the true God.
Yeah, that means that it's not the fact you have a tree, it's whether you worship it or give it significance, you pray
Who
to it,
you worship.
So basically, if there are people, like he will talk about pagans or New Age or whatever, like tree huggers, or you know, there is a lot of things happening. And if you have those tendencies, and this is what you do, and you go into idolatry with worshipping of a tree, that would be a problem.
Yes.
But if you have a tree, but you don't give it significance, it's not your God, you're not praying to it,
right.
It's not considered idolatry.
Right.
Okay? So let's not put, meaning to some idolatry that it's not
Let me
there.
just throw one thought in there to show what we're talking about on paganism. I've heard a lot of people talk about the Brownsville revival that happened in Pensacola, Florida years ago. A lot of well-known ministers come out of that. I remember plain as day, I went there to see what it was about because I lived within 2 blocks of that church back when it happened. Yanka, when I went in there, I can remember plain as day, and I went in there more than once to see this for myself. They had huge banners hanging around in different places inside of this church. And people at the end of their services would go to where those banners were, and they would bow down and pray before those banners.
You're kidding.
Now, I don't know what the significance was on these banners, but I knew that that was idolatry.
Right.
And, I'm not against when people go up to an altar. The minister just made he wants to pray for the people. They come up there, they kneel down to be prayed for, or they're pouring their heart out to God. They're not bowing down to the pastor. They're not bowing down to some image or anything. But in a case like that, it was one of the few times I've ever seen in my entire life where obviously to me, or at least that was my perception, they were like bowing to these banners. And I'd never seen anything like that before in Christianity. So, a little weird.
So,
let's ready to play this?
But another thing that I wanted to bring out when people listen to the whole video, so again, of course, having a tree is not the same thing as idolatry. And then also, he's going to talk about calendar. Okay, and I think this is very important because he's speaking of the fact that Pharisees had calendar that was
solar
considered
calendar.
from
Lunar calendar.
Lunar calendar that was considered to be from watchers,
Yes.
demons,
Yes.
Nephilim.
That's in the Dead Sea Scrolls.
That too.
They went by a solar calendar,
Now-
364 days in a year.
and then they went by lunar, the Pharisees.
No, I'm talking about the Dead Sea Scroll
Okay.
people.
But they still, till this day, have the same lunar calendar.
That's why they're into the blood moons.
And then also, of course, the names in calendar, even in Hebrew, some people use these Hebrew names for calendar thinking they're so holy and better. Yet they're all adapted from Babylonia, from pagans. It's all pagan, okay? So he's saying how Qumran community had to separate from Pharisees because they considered them sons of darkness based on calendar brought from watchers.
Yes.
And they do it till this day. Okay? So
and the reason why they use that calendar is because they were from the sons of darkness. I mean, they were from the fallen angels. They are children of theirs. And so they're...
And Jesus called them serpents, vipers,
Yeah.
and so on. So, but let's listen to a little excerpt from him at, hold on.
And we'll
Just a
close
little
with
bit, and then we will
that.
close, and please just listen to him, the whole thing, as I said, so it will be interesting for you to
arresting of the lengthening of darkness on December 25th, to be a symbol of the hoped-for rebirth or perpetual rejuvenation of the Roman Empire. resulting from the maintenance of the worship of the gods whose tutelage the Romans thought had brought Rome to greatness and world rule. If it co-opted a Christian celebration, so much the better, because he hated Christians. Okay, so what the author of our article here is going to argue is that it was actually the other way around. That Aurelian stole the date from Christians, not that Christians stole the date from pagans. And there's a good deal of evidence that that he marshals, that this is indeed the case. That this is not a pagan date. It is a date that pagans stole from Christians, and not the other way around. That again, you often read on internet theology or in books published by Gnostic publishing societies and whatnot. Again, consider the context for a lot of that stuff. So his position, and again, people, will have the link, to the article on this. His position is that Aurelian actually stole an important Christian date. Now, the question arises then: is there evidence before Aurelian that December 25th was an important date to Christians? Is there evidence of that? If so, then it would appear that this is in fact what happened. That December 25th, before Aurelian, was important to Christians, associated with the birth of Jesus, and that the pagans stole it from Christians. So it is not a pagan date, at least it wasn't until the pagans stole it from Christians.
That's pretty good. I just wanted a little teaser for them because they have to listen to the whole thing. I mean, they have no time
to make sense of it. That's true.
But anyway, I thought we brought a little balance, no judgment to either group. If you have Christmas, if you don't, if you're persuaded not to, if you have a Hanukkah for Christ. Now, the only thing I'll tell you, Steve, if they have a Hanukkah for Maccabees, I'll stay away. For the temple Maccabees and all of that stuff, or lying about oil miracle, which is rabbinic. I'm not into that.
Right.
But I just hope that it brought more light. And again, I ask those who condemn their brothers and sisters, as we, have to have humility, admit when we were wrong. Please have humility.
Right.
And say, well, listen, maybe I overdid it, I was wrong. I'm not going to condemn my brothers and sisters as idolaters because there is no case. Biblically, historically, there is no case.
Right.
And
there's more evidence that supports the other way around.
There is some awesome thing that did happen in December 25. Every occasion we can join in celebration of Jesus, sing to him and worship him, be it any day. So let's just be a little bit more unified.
Tolerant. We should be more tolerant
of one another. Well, I'm not saying that we're tolerant, because then it goes to ecumenism. I'm not speaking in that sense. There is things we don't tolerate, you see.
Right. Yeah, because I'm not into Santa Claus.
But do you understand, Stephen? It's like, let's look at the facts, logic, common sense.
No, I understand.
And all of it. And then it's part of Christian liberty and what your own heart tells you.
And you make your decision prayerfully from those aspects there. So,
exactly.
Well, thank you for watching. If this ministry is a blessing to you and you want to be a part of it and support this ministry, we thank you for your loving kindness in doing so. You can visit our website, israelinewslive.org. And also, the address appears at the bottom of the screen, or this case, probably on the back of the computer. I don't know where it's going to appear at here. And it'll be in the description as well for you. And also let you guys know, we do have a conference coming up in February the 8th. It's a one-day conference. John Moore will be here with us as well. He'll be speaking. That's kind of why we kind of set the conference up during that time. He'll be speaking that morning. Then myself, right after lunch, Yana will be speaking as well, which I may put her before me because she doesn't like going last in the evening like that because it wears her down. So you can get your tickets. It's on the website, available already. We do have a charge on this because we keep running into the problem. People say they're going to come. They don't come. We reserve the whole thing, and then the next thing you know, we catch paying the bill for the whole, not that, the people normally, God lays it upon their heart to help us. So we thank God for that. But the facility, it's not like being able to go to a church. We don't have a church here where we can go do this at, where it helps save money. So we have to pay for this facility. So it is expensive. It's nearly $2,000 each time we do this. So
Plus other expenses.
yeah, well, I'm actually counting a lot of the other expenses there. Not counting the fact of the guests, so no, I'm not counting
Yeah,
that.
You have to pay his
You got to
plane
cover that.
ticket and give him something. You know, you can
Yes,
just send
yes.
him home, and he spent all this preparation time, and
Right.
so it is quite undertaking.
Right. So we mainly do the ticket to make sure we don't lose the cost in covering the building, and for being able to give a little gift for John for his travel coming down. Anyway, thank you and God bless you. Thank you for watching. Shalom, shalom. Oh, Patreon. Don't forget, check out Patreon. Yana just put up a new article. I loaded a video there the other day, a new video there if you've not been on there. Sometimes 2 people are subscribed, but when the month rolls around, their subscription time has come off and they forget to redo it, and they drop away. And we are going to be doing more on there. So just as time permits, the Lord willing. So thank you and Erev Tov.
Good night.